Let's get to our final guest of Capital Connection now. We have David Costa, who's a Dean at Robert Kennedy College and joins us from the Zürich Bourse to run us through some of the action that we can expect in these markets today. David, I believe that you have a pretty conservative view on the US and the European markets. Which sectors do you think are going to carry on suffering the most in these conditions?
Good morning, Rebecca. Yes, as we can see, the world is heading toward a recession. We are in a recession. We have seen the market data yesterday from Japan. We have seen the situation in UK, inflation raising. All over, we have bad news. I don't expect the news in Germany to be much more surprising today. Traditionally, when we have an high inflationary market, the equities do not perform well, and I don't see how 2008 would be an exception. In terms of sectors, obviously the financial sector is the one which has been mostly penalized and will still continue to lose. Construction, real estate, but throughout equities, I see somehow problems and pain going forward. I maintain a very bearish sentiment at this stage because of what happened, because of the economic data, the overall environment.
But David, presumably there are some pockets of value still to be had, even in difficult conditions. Where do you see within equities that people can still make money?
It is a very, very difficult take. I mean, for instance, if we look at sectors, I don't see really commodities now in a total downturn, and it was a big correction, but I don't see commodity as being now an asset class which doesn't deserve some credit. So obviously the oil sector, which already gave some good satisfaction this year, could be potentially a good investment. Throughout different sectors, you're always going to find the exception of the good company. We've seen in technology in the last few months, some technology companies in the US have been doing very well. Pharmaceuticals traditionally is a defensive sector and have been doing not so bad, particularly here in Switzerland. So you always find opportunities. There is always a possibility to find value somewhere, but not by sector. I mean, even Warren Buffett is having a hard time now to find value. So I see the average investor having even a harder time.
David, Christina, do you see more pain for the financial sector, or is it time to go bottom picking here?
Yes, I think bottom picking didn't work in the past. I always thought, oh, now it's the bottom, but it's not. I see more pain ahead. And it's pretty obvious if we look at big insurance company in the US, what is going on, big banks, still a lot of write-downs coming through, still surprises which we didn't expect. We have seen it with UBS, we have seen it throughout. Of course, again, even on the banking sector, you can find in bottom fishing some institutions which are more into private banking, into really sort of activities which has not been affected and will not be affected by the downturn. You always find opportunities, but overall as a sector, I see more pain going through to the financial, at least till the end of this year. Now, next year, everything is possible, but I don't see in the short term, 3 months, everything to turn around the financials.
David, you say after next year, or from next year, anything is possible. Does that mean that you think all this turbulence could be over next year?
Well, what happens is it much depends on the data, much depends on the inflation, much depends on many factors. Like if we would see one of those banks which have been highly penalized, or at least a couple of those big institutions, reporting that the worst is over, there's no more surprises, start turning into more profits, then that would be the sign that it's probably now almost over. But inflation is still, is growing very fast. Commodities are still pretty high. So next year everything is possible, but it depends on how many things we already know about this crisis. There have always been every month or even earlier a surprise. So it depends. If the surprises are over, we can start recovering. If they're not over, we will not recover this year, not even next year.
Thanks very much for that, David. That was David Costa, Dean at Robert Kennedy College.